So it's June 19th, and Tim Rogers reporting with the Farm News Media team, and we are out with Steve Ewald in Caro, Michigan, right?
Yes.
For our first cab cam, sponsored by Tri-County Equipment. A great day to be out in Michigan in the planting. It's been a late planting season. Steve, thanks for letting me ride along with you.
Well, it's my pleasure to have you in the cab today and share a little bit about what goes on with Ewald Farms Incorporated.
This cab cam is brought to you by Tri-County Equipment. We appreciate their sponsorship. I want to talk about the tractor and the planter that we're in. Can you tell us a little bit about the tractor?
Yeah, this is a John Deere 245R, purchased through Tri-County. It's about 5 years ago now. And the planter is also, I think we bought them as a package. So the planter is a John Deere on an Orthman frame, which they call a DR2422. And that was all from Tri-County. And they've got some good sales staff down there and some knowledgeable people when it comes to equipment. Experience is a big thing down there, and we like to draw on that experience.
Talk about this 8245R. With the new R Series tractors, I guess they're not new anymore, but talk about the difference with the R Series from the old series. What do you like about it?
Well, definitely the cab is more spacious, air conditioning and the vent, all of that kind of stuff. This is a 2010 model. A couple years after this, they went to a touch screen down here to control hydraulics, which made them even nicer.
Oh, wow.
They're a lot quieter than the older tractors were. Even we run a lot of like 8200s, 8000 series tractors. Nice tractors to cultivate in that, but these ones are just noticeably quieter.
Awesome. So I know the newest thing with the planters is the add-ons, and talk about how is this planter equipped, and tell me a little bit more about the planter.
Well, this planter, when we bought it, we were set up with John Deere air pressure, down pressure, and pretty much standard hydraulic drive at that time from Deere. Since then, we've gone to where we are today with electric drives from Precision. We've gone with the Delta Force down pressure, hydraulic down pressure. This year we put on the Schlegel wheels for closing wheels, which I think has been nice in the wet ground. Planters are a big thing. We try to stay pretty close to the edge in technology as far as planters go. And it's been a good unit for us.
So, Steve, can you tell us about your family farm and who all is involved in your operation?
Well, we actually started with my father years ago, and in about 1999, I decided to make a push towards organic production, which we did, and it was trying, but it worked out pretty well for us. So now we've got. My son is involved, my son-in-law, and we've got 3 full-time employees that help us farm here. We operate about 2,000 acres, all certified organic, or at least in transition to.
And what kind of crops are you planting?
Today we're planting black beans. So we grow blacks, navies, willing to grow any type of dry bean. We like dry beans. We grow yellow corn, blue corn, food grade or feed grade soybeans. So we're spread out pretty well. We do some wheat, spelt even, if the market is there. So a little bit of everything.
So how many years have you been in the specialty crop business?
Well, since about 99, when we went organic. Shortly after that, we had our first taste of blue corn, and it wasn't really a good taste, but it's come a long way since then. And in those early years, the moisture was as high as the yield, so there wasn't any money to be made. So, but the blue corn varieties have progressed, and although there's still a short day variety, 88 day or so, they're just doing a lot better. The yield isn't what yellow corn would yield, however the price is there, and it is something different. So we like to be diversified, and that gives us a reason to have a shorter day variety on the farm.
Okay. So it's been a really wet year across the state of Michigan. We've had record rainfalls, and a lot of growers are struggling. It looks like we're up here in the thumb of Michigan, and things are looking a little bit better. Where are you guys at for planting progress?
Well, we're obviously behind. We're not extremely wet here, but we've been plagued with frequent rainfall, which has kept us out of the field. and set us back. So normally we start planting yellow corn, 15th, 18th of May. And this year it was a lot closer to June when we got started, and actually today being Wednesday, about 10 days ago, we finished planting yellow corn. The way the rains came, we were able to plant some soybeans early because we had fields that were slotted to be corn that were too wet. So, and for sake of trying to stay on time, we changed everything over and planted some soybeans. And so our soybeans are in for the most part, and up for the most part. We've had to pull out of our blue corn just because we didn't think we're not sure we could get a quality crop being the 19th of June.
Yep.
So we've switched and planted some soybeans in place of that, and some dry beans will take up a few of those acres as well.
So excuse my ignorance, but for some of us that aren't really familiar with organic crops, and I got to ask you, so yellow corn and blue corn, the words that you use, so blue corn is explain what blue corn is.
Blue corn is corn, only it's blue instead of yellow.
Really?
If you eat blue corn chips from a grocery store, they use blue corn to make blue corn chips.
Huh.
Yep.
How many growers are growing blue corn? Is that a big market or small or?
It's fairly small, limited number of acres. We've been in it for years. There's probably 1,500 to 2,500 acres being grown in the thumb, I would guess, and it kind of varies. And all of it ends up in Minnesota at a plant there to make chips with it. So they also grow it out there. So we kind of compete with the homeboys.
So I know there's a small pocket of growers here in the thumb that are organic, right?
Yes.
You guys kind of network and learn from each other?
Oh, I think so. Even if we don't admit it, we're surely watching the neighbors to see what works and what doesn't. So, we've it's been that way since the beginning. Even 20 years ago, it was probably more so because it was a lot of small farmers that were doing it, and the big elevators weren't buying crops, so you had to network with people to find markets for your product. So that.
So you guys kind of work together a little bit to market the product?
Oh, definitely. I'm president of a group called Organic Farmers of Michigan as well. And that's a group of about 93 people that market crops as one unit, basically. So we've got more to put forward to an end user. So, but there's, EverBest Organics is a big buyer. Cooperative Elevator now, which a couple of years ago bought Organic Bean and Grain. And they're making their push into organics too. And it'll be nice to have the competition. It's a lot easier today to sell your products. It used to be that you didn't want to plant something unless you had a market for it or a contract for it. But given the fact that there are more people involved, even locally, that's helped new growers come in with storage facilities that maybe farmers didn't have, so they can store at an elevator now.
So, what are the trends in organics that you guys are seeing from the consumer side? It's still growing?
End use is, I think we passed the $50 billion mark this year.
Wow.
So, that's nationwide. It's growing every year, usually around a 6% pace.
It's impressive.
There's a lot of new interest, especially with low conventional prices. So that naturally puts some pressure on the organic markets as well. Tariffs are never a good thing. That doesn't help us sell stuff. But the best thing for a healthy organic market is a healthy conventional market. So we want everyone to be able to move product.
That makes sense. What kind of disease issues do you have in the organic market? And if you do have disease issues, what do you do to combat those things?
Surprisingly, we don't seem to have a lot of disease. Wheat can be an issue for us growing food grade white wheat. We like to grow white wheat. And, like the conventional producers, they've had fungus issues. And we've got some products that are able to be used there, but the trouble for us is if our products, though not as strong as a conventional product might be, may help us, but if it doesn't help guarantee us a good price, then we end up selling into a feed market. And there's just a lot of other things to grow if we can't. So, we're always looking for better ways to grow things, and that's one of the hopes that we have for big business getting into organics, is maybe there'll be more money put into research and development for new products and varieties. And we feel that plant breeding is, obviously been big in GMO development, and we feel that there's probably room for good genetics to be bred in without the genetic alteration.
Weed management. How do you tackle weeds in your fields with organics? Talk a little bit about that.
Weed management is on a year like this is pretty trying, because if you can't be in the field, it's pretty hard to run a tillage tool because that's really the only way we've got.
So for weed management, tillage tools, or
we're looking at tillage tools. We use we've got different tine weeders and single rotary hose and double rotary hose that we use. Sometimes in corn and soybeans we can use flaming, which is actually propane and fire to burn the weeds off. On a year like this, we're a little concerned that we might need those 5 or 7 days that it sets the corn back. So we'll try to keep the flamers out.
Because when you go into the fields and you flame the crop, it stunts it for a few days.
Well, when you're flaming corn, basically you're going to kill the leaves that are there.
Yep.
So it takes new growth to come out, and if you've got cold weather or that slow growing corn, it takes a while for it to come back. So if you've got 75 degrees, 80 degrees and sunshine, in 3 days you're headed back towards green again. But you need some good conditions, but corn's a funny thing. You don't lose much in the way of stand with flaming, where any type of mechanical tillage, you've always got problems with taking out stand.
Makes sense. So a lot goes into the organic crops, and I'm sorry for all the questions, but I think a lot of our viewers and a lot of the people that across the state don't know a lot about organics, especially to come to a place like this and see it, because you're a pretty good sized operation. There's a lot of myths, I think, with organic crops. What is the most common questions you have from your neighbors or from consumers that you get with organics?
Well, I think there's always the obvious question: is it really any better than conventional? And that's totally up to the consumer. That's what we've liked about organic farming, is it's everything we do is for the consumer, and it's a choice that the consumer can make. If they feel that, I can't say that mine is more nutritious or tastes better, but what I can say for sure is I didn't use glyphosate or some chemical that might be getting a bad rap today. Whether it's a bad rap or not, it doesn't matter. It's in the media, and it doesn't help. So I think that's one of the things. Another would be, how do you deal with the weeds, or is it worth it to put all the hours in? Because we do put a lot of hours in the summertime. We don't spend much time at the lake, and we just feel that it is. Honestly, years ago when we got into this, sugar beets weren't a good thing for us. We were struggling with yields, and I didn't have the depth of pockets, the money in the pockets to carry us through some of those bad times, and I had to find a way to make things go. So,
how many row planter is this?
It's a 24 row planter, 22-inch row spacing.
Okay. Have you experimented with spacing on planters at all?
Before I bought this planter, we were actually 28-inch rows, which were fine. 28 was kind of an odd number. These tractors with the bigger cabs, and they got to be about so big. And with 28-inch rows, it took a 56-inch center for wheels, and it's just a little tight. And if you want to work in the cab or between the cab and the tires, it's just about impossible. So we started looking at, we didn't want to go wider row spacing out to 30, so we've always admired the guys that were already 22-inch rows, and obviously some are narrower than that now. But so we made the change back in 13, I think it was, and definitely makes the tractors go down the row better, and we spend a lot of time in the row, so that's a big thing to us.
Big thing. So talk about the other equipment that you have from Tri-County that you use.
Well, we've run a couple of John Deere combines, and we got a 9650 STS and a 9870 that we run. The 9650, we kind of have it tweaked a little bit for dry beans. Believe it or not, every once in a while we run into a weedy patch in the fall, so we try to have something that is, tuned a little bit to handle some weed seed or something like that. So
okay. Well, Steve, I appreciate letting us ride along today. This has been our first episode of the Farm News Cab Cam, sponsored by Tri-County. How many more acres do you guys have to plant yet?
We probably have about 600 acres or just over 600 acres today. That's 3 or 4 days for us. Pushing a little, but not crazy. And if we could just put 2 or 3 together, it would be nice.
I know, Mother Nature would just hold off on this rain, right?
Absolutely.
They calling for rain up here tonight?
Light rain tonight, and possibly some heavier showers in spots tomorrow morning and through the early part of the day. So we're praying to miss those, and that's all we can do is we'll take what the good Lord gives us and just smile.
Well, thanks again for letting us ride along. This Cab Cam's been sponsored by Tri-County, gracious sponsor, and we'll see you down the road.
All right, thank you.